You pay your taxes. You've held on to your home for decades. And yet one small envelope in the mailbox can turn everything upside down. One unexpected tax notice. One number that jumps higher than you ever imagined. And suddenly the only thing running through your mind is, can I even afford to keep this house anymore? For so many middle-class families and retirees, the fear isn't just inflation or interest rates anymore. It's the fear that even a home you paid off years ago might not be as safe as you thought. And what's harder to accept is that these latest tax changes are hitting the very people who should have been the safest. Longtime homeowners. Retirees living on fixed incomes. Adult children hoping to keep the home their parents worked a lifetime for. In this video, we're breaking down major tax changes about California Prop 19 that almost no one has been warned about. The very changes that could decide whether your family gets to keep its home or not. Are you ready to hear the truth? Full reassessment for all non-primary homes under the new Prop 19 rules. The moment your parents pass away, every property that isn't their primary home gets fully reassessed to today's market value. A rental property. An investment condo. A weekend cabin. The low property tax your parents held on to for decades disappears. Any sense of family consideration disappears. What you get instead is a brand new tax bill built on the highest home prices California has ever seen. It's hard to explain what it feels like when you find out the house your parents bought in 1987 for a little over $100,000 is now valued at $1.5 million and that the property tax has jumped from a few thousand to $17,000 or even $20,000 a year. It doesn't feel like a number. It feels like someone just yanked the floor out from under you. People say everyone has to pay taxes, but there are levels of tax that put a family into a corner. Keep something you can't afford or let go of something filled with memories no amount of money can replace. And the hardest part is this. Most adult children already juggling mortgages, childcare, and rising living expenses simply cannot carry the weight of a sudden tax burden their parents spent a lifetime building around. Here's what's changed in 2025. Counties have automated their enforcement systems. Reassessment notices now arrive within 30 to 45 days instead of the 3 to 6 months it used to take. California home values have increased 15 to 20% since Prop 19 passed in 2021. A home that was $200,000 over the protection cap in 2021 might be $400,000 over it now in 2025. California counties reported collecting over $1 billion in additional property taxes in just the last 2 years from Prop 19 alone. But the real pain isn't just in the dollar amount. It's in what that property represents. The older generation didn't buy these rental homes to get rich quick. They bought them because they believed their kids deserved a foundation they never had. Because they wanted to leave behind something solid their children could lean on long after they were gone. It was a quiet kind of promise built in sleepless nights, weekend repairs, and every penny they saved by doing the fixes themselves. And when that property has to be sold simply because the tax bill is impossible, it doesn't feel like losing an asset. It feels like erasing a chapter of your family's story. What shocks families even more is that they didn't do anything wrong. They simply didn't know the rules had changed. No one told them that when a parent passes away, non-primary homes get reset to full market value. No one warned them that the very houses they struggled to keep might turn into a financial trap if they didn't plan ahead. The heartbreak often arrives out of nowhere. A tax notice in the mailbox. A number that makes no sense. A phone call to siblings. And the sinking realization, we can't keep it. But here's the part very few people know. It's not hopeless. There are legal ways to protect these properties from full reassessment. There are specific types of trusts, ownership structures, and planning tools that can preserve the old tax base, but only if they're set up before the property transfers. This isn't a loophole. It's not a trick. These are legitimate tools families who understand the law have used for years to protect the things they worked so hard to build. But like any door in life, it only opens if you reach it at the right time. Once a parent passes away without a plan in place, almost every protective option slams shut. Loss of parent-to-child exclusion for the family home. For years, California allowed children to inherit the family home without any tax increase. It was an invisible but powerful shield that helped middle-class families hold on to a home filled with memories. And then Prop 19 arrived, quietly wiping that protection away and turning something once guaranteed into something many families can no longer afford to keep. Imagine standing in your parents' old living room, the one once filled with laughter, the one they cared for down to every tiny detail. You run your hand across the familiar textures and tell yourself, no matter what happens, I'll keep this house. But right when you're still processing the loss, a tax letter arrives. You open it, not expecting anything unusual, but the number inside hits you hard. $15,000. Then $18,000. Maybe even $22,000 a year. The low tax bill your parents held for decades is gone. Every bit of protection they relied on is gone. Everything gets reset to full market value, so high that even buyers in today's market struggle to afford it, let alone a grieving family that just lost its last parent. You look around the house and see everything that belongs to them. The chair your dad always sat in. The doorway your mom wiped clean over and over. The smell of old wood. The creak of the same floorboards you grew up walking on. Every corner is a memory. But the home is no longer being measured by memories. It's being measured by market price. And the market doesn't care how long this house has been part of your family. It only cares about the number. And that number can push you out of the very place you once called home. What hurts families the most is that they had no idea the law had changed. No one told them that their parents needed to be alive for any tax-saving structure to be put in place. No one told them that if they waited too long, the home would be reassessed at the highest possible value. No one told them that the thing their parents fought so hard to preserve could turn into a burden their children would never be able to carry. Adult children in their 30s, 40s, 50s, already stretched thin by rent, kids, debt, and the cost of living cannot absorb a sudden tax bill this large. And in that moment, you realize the question is no longer how do we keep the family home, but can we even keep it at all? The tragedy is that this outcome could almost always be avoided if planning had been done before the parents passed away. Only when their names are still on the deed, only before the home transfers, does the family have the legal right to use the tools that keep the property tax low. Once they are gone, the door shuts completely. No exceptions. No extensions. No, we didn't know. The law does not care about emotion. It only cares about timing. The $1 million limit for primary residence protection. There's a misunderstanding that countless families in California still believe. As long as the children move into their parents' home after they pass away, the property taxes will stay exactly the same. It sounds reasonable until Prop 19 quietly introduces a rule most people never even heard about. Only the first $1 million of assessed value is protected. And in a state where an ordinary home is worth far more than that, this protection feels like holding a tiny umbrella in the middle of a storm. Picture yourself standing in a family home worth $1.8 million, an entirely normal number in today's California. Your parents bought it decades ago for a few $100,000. Low property taxes. Stable payments. Everything under control. You assume that moving in will let you keep those taxes just as they were. But Prop 19 slips in one quiet condition. Only the first $1 million escapes reassessment. Everything above that gets reassessed at full market value the moment ownership transfers. So if the home is worth $1.8 million, you're still stuck with taxes calculated on the remaining $800,000. And that new tax bill doesn't go up a little. It can jump by $6,000, $9,000, even $12,000 more every single year. A number that's simply impossible for many people, especially adult children in their 30s to 50s who are already juggling their own mortgage, raising kids, and dealing with the brutal cost of living. The heartbreaking truth is this: the home your parents paid off long ago suddenly becomes a burden on the very children they hope to protect. You sit in your old bedroom looking at the graduation photo still on the wall, feeling like your parents are still there with you. But the tax bill doesn't care about any of that. It only cares about the market. And California's market has never cared about anyone. The pain doesn't come from the number itself. It comes from the realization that your parents did everything right. And yet your family is still pushed toward losing the home because of one small detail buried in the law. That $1 million limit sounds generous, but with today's home values, it's nothing more than a thin sheet of paper trying to block a flood. High-income families might be able to absorb that tax hike. But what about retirees? What about regular working families? What about the middle-class Californians who've lived here their whole lives? They can't. And when they can't, they're left with one painful option: sell the home, move away, and watch a generation's worth of sacrifice disappear under the weight of taxes. But here's what almost no one realizes. That $1 million cap isn't the end of the story. It's only the limit set by the law, not the limit of what's possible. There are still legal ways to keep the home from being reassessed on the amount above $1 million, but only if they're put in place before the parents pass away. After that moment, every door shuts. No exceptions. No fixing it after the fact. And here's what's crushing families in 2025. That $1 million cap was set in 2021 and hasn't adjusted for inflation or California's continued housing price increases. A home in San Francisco that was $150,000 over the cap when Prop 19 passed might be $350,000 or even $400,000 over it today. Families who carefully structured their plans around that cap 4 years ago are discovering their protection has eroded significantly. The gap keeps growing every year, and there's no adjustment mechanism built into the law. The one-year residency rule, there's a detail in Prop 19 that most families don't know about, yet it's the one that determines whether you get to keep your parents' home or lose it forever. The child must move into the home within 1 year of the parent's death. Not planning to move in. Not moving in once things calm down. You must actually move in, live there, and prove it with paperwork. Miss that deadline by even a month and every tax break disappears. Put yourself in that moment. Your parents have just passed away. The family is grieving. Everything feels chaotic. You're dealing with paperwork, siblings, your job, your kids. And somewhere in the middle of all that, buried inside a stack of documents, is one small line almost everyone ignores. You must file the homeowner exemption and establish primary residency within 12 months. If you don't do it correctly or don't do it in time, the entire home gets reassessed at full market value instantly. Imagine finding that out only when the tax bill arrives. You open the envelope and see the tax leap to 3 or 4 times what your parents used to pay. You call the county hoping it's some kind of mistake, but they only have one answer. You didn't move in within 1 year. There is no exemption. No exception because you live far away. No exception because you were caring for young kids. No exception because your family was overwhelmed by the funeral. The law doesn't bend. People have told me they've never felt so helpless. They never imagined that not moving in fast enough could be the thing that forces a family to lose the home their parents protected for decades. Some describe standing in the living room where their dad used to sit in his favorite chair and feeling like they were being slowly pushed out of their own childhood. What makes this rule feel so cruel is that not everyone can uproot their life and move within 12 months. Some still have a lease. Some have kids in school across town. Some can't leave their job. And many simply didn't know the rule existed. Here's what's changed as of 2025. County assessors are now requiring far more documentation to prove you've met that one-year requirement. It's no longer enough to simply file the homeowner's exemption form. They want utility bills in your name. They want to see that you've changed your voter registration. They want your vehicle registration updated to that address. Some counties are even requesting neighbor affidavits confirming you actually live there. Families in Los Angeles and San Francisco counties have had their exemptions challenged 6 months after they thought everything was approved because the assessor decided the documentation wasn't sufficient. But this rule also carries the clearest warning. If a family doesn't plan while the parents are still alive, they will almost always get caught off guard when the moment comes. You can't change the one-year deadline, but you can prepare so your family doesn't lose a home because of a clock no one told you was ticking. No special needs exemption for many families in California. The question isn't some distant fear. It's the thing that keeps them awake at night for years. What happens to a disabled child when their parents, the only people who truly know how to care for them, are no longer here? And the most heartbreaking part is this. Prop 19 offers no exceptions for these families. No shield. No humanitarian carve-out. No recognition that some children cannot live independently or simply pick up and move away from the only environment where they feel safe. Imagine the home a parent has spent a lifetime turning into a sanctuary for their child. Special locks on the doors to keep them from wandering. A kitchen modified to prevent accidents. A bedroom arranged carefully to avoid sensory overload. Every corner of the house is a choice rooted in love. Every small adjustment is a silent promise, you'll be safe here. And yet with one single event, the parents passing, the entire property is reassessed at full market value, treated no differently than a regular investment home. No one stops to ask, where will this child go? Do they even understand why they're being forced out of the only home that feels safe to them? The law doesn't ask. The law only calculates. Families have told me they broke down in tears when they opened the reassessment notice, not because of the number itself, but because they knew what it meant. Their child, the one who cannot adapt to a new environment, would be forced to move. And for parents caring for someone with severe autism, cerebral palsy, or significant ADHD, they know that moving isn't just relocating. It can be a psychological shock that their child may never recover from. What hurts even more is this. All of this happens even when the parents did everything right. Paid off the home. Cared for their child. Planned ahead. Set aside what they could. Prop 19 gives them no escape. No exception. Not even a sliver of hope in the law. Here's something that became painfully clear in 2024 and 2025. California courts issued several rulings clarifying that even properly structured special needs trusts do not protect inherited properties from Prop 19 reassessment unless the disabled child was already living in the home as their primary residence before the parent's death. That has shocked families who thought they'd done everything correctly. And yet some families do manage to keep the home because they learned one truth. The planning has to happen while the parents are still alive. Certain types of properly structured trusts can preserve the old tax value and keep the home safe for a special needs child, but only if they're created in time. Massive long-term tax increase. Most of us only pay attention to what the bill is this year or this month. But what almost no one tells families about Prop 19 is the destruction that happens when you look at property taxes over time. It's not a small bump. It's not a few thousand. It's the kind of long-term increase that can wipe out an entire generation's savings. Imagine inheriting the home your parents bought back in the late 80s when taxes were just a few thousand a year. After Prop 19, once the home is reassessed at full market value, your tax bill might jump by an extra $8,000 to $12,000 every year. That sounds heavy already, but when you stretch that out over 10, 20, 30 years, it becomes something that can quietly eat away your family's future. In 5 years, you could lose an extra $50,000 to $70,000. In 20 years, that number can pass $300,000 to $400,000. In 30 years, it can climb to nearly $1 million. Money that could have grown into $2 or $3 million if invested instead. Here's the part almost no one thinks about. Prop 19's increased property taxes aren't paid with pre-tax money. You pay them with income that has already been taxed. Meaning to cover an extra $12,000 in property taxes each year, you might have to earn $18,000 to $20,000 more every year. For decades, no official brochure spells that out. No agency warns you that this isn't a one-time burden. It's a chain of burdens stretching through the rest of your life and possibly your children's lives too. And eventually you're left with a question that hits harder than any dollar amount. If this home turns into $1 million tax bill over time, can your family actually survive it, or will you end up selling it just like so many other families already have? Planning must be done before death. The most direct truth Prop 19 forces every family to confront is this. If you don't put a plan in place while your parents are still alive, there is almost no way to save the home afterward. There are no extra forms to file later. No exceptions. No one can ask for more time. The moment your parents pass away, the law automatically shuts every protective door. This is exactly why thousands of California families have been blindsided. They thought they had more time. They thought they could wait until next year. Wait until their parents felt better. Wait until finances weren't so tight. But when that first tax bill arrived, tripled or even quadrupled, they realized they had stepped into a game without knowing the rules had changed. Many families say they called the county, contacted attorneys, emailed anyone who might help, hoping for some kind of humane exception. But the answer is always the same. If the legal structure wasn't established before your parents passed, we cannot reverse the reassessment. You can feel the heartbreak in their stories. Not because they didn't care, but because no one ever warned them the law had become this unforgiving. The truth is simple and brutal. Every protective tool, trusts, proper transfers, legal structures that preserve the old tax value, only works while the parents are still alive. When they can still sign. When changes can still be made. Once that moment passes, the market value tax becomes the default and you're stuck with it, no matter how destructive it is for your family's finances. Here's something happening right now in 2025 that almost no one is talking about. County assessors are going back and auditing property transfers that happened in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Families who thought they had properly structured everything are receiving notices that their exemption is being challenged or reversed. The documentation requirements have gotten stricter. The enforcement has gotten more aggressive. And with California counties collecting over $1 billion in new revenue from Prop 19, there's zero political will to soften this law. If anything, it's getting worse. The wait times to see an estate planning attorney who truly understands Prop 19 have skyrocketed. In major California metro areas, you're now looking at 2 to 4 month wait times just to get an initial consultation. That means if you decide you need to act today, you might not get professional help until mid-2026. And if something happens during that waiting period, your family loses every protective option. Prop 19 has changed the way a family keeps or loses their home almost overnight. And the hardest part is that most Californians were never warned. But you're hearing this earlier than so many others. And that means you still have time to protect the legacy your parents spent a lifetime building. Don't wait until the tax letter arrives and every option is already gone. If you want to keep getting the information that can help your family avoid shocks like this, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. One small action today could be what saves an entire home tomorrow.